Alright, y'all. Hands are sanitized. Today we are going to add some goodies to our Chardonnay, which we can probably pop this off right now and re-sanitize it. And now there's wind. Yeah, it's not good. Not good on the wind part. Let's throw all that in. Gradual cylinder has fallen. But it's okay, we're good. Tough thing about this jug here is that when it seals, damn, am I gonna have to stop everything? Where the fuck does wind come from? I swear I'm strong. It's just, this jar is stronger. Gotta hug it. Oh. This top, it's a nice sized jug, but it's a bitch to open. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to figure out the sugar content using this and a hydrometer. So this has markings up here. Most videos use bricks. I'm going to be using the other unit, which gets like, so 1.000 is dry. And you can see here, depending on the amount of sugar, you get beer, you get kind of table wine, dessert wine, and who the hell knows what that is. But it also shows on the side here alcohol potential. So 0% is at 1.00, like 5% is at 1.040, and then at like 1.10, that's about 13.5% sugar. So, what we're going to do is use this little device here. Oh, I have not hydrated the yeast yet. Well, we're going to get to that. I'm going to show you all how to hydrate yeast. It may take a second though. So, I fill this up. Okay. So we're starting to float right now. So that will tell us where we are at. And we're probably at 1.082. That'll give us probably about 11% wine, assuming that it goes to 1.0. I don't think that's bad. I think we could just let this go as is, and if we want to... This is where you kind of get to decide where you want your alcohol content to end up at. If I leave it here now, it'll probably be 10 or 11%, which is fine for a Chardonnay, I guess. If you want to be a bit more hard-hitting, you can make it higher. If you want to keep it as it is, you do that. If you want to get a lower alcohol content, you could water this down. Now that would also dilute the flavor, but adding more sugar would not, because the yeast will eat it all. So what I'm going to do is I'll add a little bit of sugar. Let's try and get closer to 1.10, about 12-13%. Alright, I'm back. We got sugar. We also have our bowl here for hydrating the yeast. Now this is important when you get a new batch of yeast, or, I mean, I typically do it every time we have some yeast, but we're going to be using D47 yeast. and I'm going to dump it into this cup of lukewarm water. And what we're going to do is make sure that's alive. So one of these packets usually does about 5 gallons. We'll probably overkill for this, but it'll be fine. So we're going to let that soak and see if it's alive or not. That's also important. But while it's doing that, we're going to add sugar. So I need to dry my hands off a little bit before I do that. What we're going to do is pour this back in. And notice how I'm kind of just pouring it pretty aggressively. I can do that because we're pre-alcohol being produced here. We want to encourage air into this mix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump a bit of sugar into it. We know where we are at naturally with the grapes at 1.082. And I'm going to dump a little bit of sugar in there. Mix it up, mix some air into this too. You don't want to add air later. That will encourage vinegarization and oxidation. But if it's pre-fermentation, we want to get as much air in there as possible because the yeast will use it in their yummy, yummy alcohol fermentation process. So I can be really aggressive with this. Alright, y'all. Realize I missed recording the part where I added the yeast and possibly testing it. So, just to recap, the yeast, put it in there, let it soak for a few minutes. It was looking fluffy, looking pretty nice. So I went ahead and threw it in. I tested the pH using a pH test strip kit. We were kind of between 3.0 and 3.5, so I'm going to say like 3.4, 3.3. I also added sugar from 1.082 to 1.092, and this is granulated cane sugar. Stir it up really good so we got accurate reading. So, not really good at this camera work. Anyways, now what we're going to add is pectic enzyme. This is going to help clear up the juice and extract more tannin. Also can reduce pectic haze. Very important for red grapes to get that color. Not so much for white wines if you're trying to go for like a lighter color one, but I'm going to add to this since we got some sediment at the bottom. It's going to use more of the nutrients in it. So it's a ½ teaspoon per gallon. This is a little over a gallon, so I'm just going to get a heaping ½ teaspoon or thereabouts. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So add that to it, give it a stir. This will free up a lot more nutrients for the yeast to use. And on the topic of yeast nutrients, we have probably the smelliest product we have here. This is Fermaid. This is a yeast nutrients that contains organic components in it. It kind of smells, it's kind of got like a foot smell to it, I guess. It doesn't smell the greatest, but it, well, let's see, we're going to be adding a little bit now and then a little bit later. And I'm trying to figure out what the recommended concentration is. I want to say we've used a teaspoon. And you really can't, I mean, yeah, you can, I guess, overdo this, but like me and my mom accidentally got our units mixed up when we first got this stuff. And for our first like 2 or 3 batches, we put like 10 times the recommended dosage. And it turned out fine. We realized, wow, it's 2.5 grams, 2.5 ounces. There's a difference there. So I just put a teaspoon in there, and I'm going to probably add one in 48 to 72 hours. So it has that initial kind of burst in energy, and then we can get something in there to kind of help keep everything going smooth for the fermentation. You don't always have to do that, but I'm being cautious because this is our first batch of grape wine. So what's annoying about this stuff is that it kind of gets cakey. It doesn't break down as easy, but and it also kind of sticks to the side of the jar and stuff. Some people dissolve it in some water beforehand. I just dump it right in. It's whatever. So we've added that, added our pectic enzyme, added our yeast. The wine has everything it needs. It's a good pH. So now what I'm going to do is seal it up. I'm trying to do this. Now, here's what we're going to do because we want to oxygenate it. I did a little bit of that while stirring all the ingredients in. Ooh. Almost knocked over my hydrometer. Would not be good. We need to oxygenate this. Get as much oxygen in there as possible right now. So, we got oxygen in there. I got my finger on the thing. We're going to shake shit. Ooh. Well, awkward. My cork just fell in there. Okay, gotta fish that out. Alright, y'all. Wind is picking up. So, we are going to redo that. This time with the cap that came with this. I don't use this that much, so I wasn't expecting that. We lost a touch of juice, but not too bad. I'm going to put this cap on. And now I can shake the shit out of this and oxygenate it. This will also help mix everything and anything around there. It'll make the yeast very happy that they can breathe and eat, fart, and live and die all here in this jug. Cool. So, making a bit of a mess, but not too bad. Make sure I write down everything I did to this. And I'm going to put the stopper with the water trap back on. And we are going to put it on the shelf. And definitely within 24 hours probably, we'll start to see bubbles coming up the side here, and we'll start to see foam on the top, and we'll start to see gas coming out of the thing. I'll make sure to include a video of what that looks like when it's happening. I need to secure this top a little better. This top is not the easiest to use. But, yeah. I'm going to let some more air in. Shake it all up. And that's pretty much it. It's going to be a lot harder to do with a 3-gallon jug, but that's tonight's problem. Alright, later. Alright, y'all, water trap is bubbling on the Chardonnay. It's like 3:45. And we're starting to see bubbles. A little bit up the side, but it's starting to collect around the edge of the surface. That's good. That means fermentation is happening. Alright, y'all. We are back with the Pinot Gris. I realize I didn't record all the segments I should have in the last video, so I'm going to make sure I'm going to go over more in depth on starting the yeast. So for the Pinot Gris, we're going to be using 71B. Going to prime in this bowl. I usually use like lukewarm tap water. Just a splash of it will do. If you're on city water, this is important, and it has chlorine. You cannot do this because the chlorine will kill this. So, if you're on well water, or you can use just filtered water from the store, as long as it's, I think if you use spring water, it's better for the yeast itself. But since this is about 3 gallons, This does about 5 gallons, according to the diagram on the back. We're going to be doing the whole packet. If you're doing like 1 gallon, you can kind of like split the packet and save some money, but we're really big here. So I'm just going to dump that in there and kind of mix it in. Make sure all the yeasty bits get hydrated. And then we're going to let that sit to the side and see if the yeast pull through. If not, we open up another packet. There's never really guarantee on the viability of yeast in this packets. Usually they're susceptible to heat like in the summer or I don't know, time. Anyways, so now what we're going to do is we are going to extract some out of here, figure out our sugar content to see if we need to add more sugar, test the pH, add pectic enzyme, and again, our nutrients. Alright, y'all. Why don't we have some sugar here? Testing the pH, or no, the sugar. I'm gonna remove that, sanitize this whole mess here, dump out yesterday's fluid, which doesn't have any bugs in it. That's good. And hopefully we won't need that rubber band again because I got this. It actually fits on there pretty well. Bet. Okay. Cool, cool. We got some new technology. All right. Let me put this center stage. Wow, I almost need a longer turkey baster. Ooh, okay. All right, we are, ooh. Yeah, I say we're right about where the Chardonnay was at 1.084. Okay. So, I say let's add a bit of sugar to it. It's going to take a lot more sugar to affect this volume versus the 1+ gallon of Chardonnay that we had. So, let's bump it up a bit. Okay. We'll see what that does right there. Alright, now I got this cool little cap thing. It actually has its own caps. I think I'll be able to pop this on there and shake it around without it like giving me too much trouble. Ooh. Could be sealed better. Wouldn't vigorously shaken, but not terrible. It's gotta breathe. There's some air in that brew. Cool. I don't plan to add too much sugar to this. We could be like a 11 or 12% wine, but I'm gonna keep shaking it for a while. All right, we have shaken it vigorously. Let's see what we got. Hopefully some difference. I don't imagine much though. Ooh, actually, we might actually have right where I was aiming for. All right. You're right in a little white part of it. Probably like 1.0945. So I was aiming for the 90s, but you can go for 1.100. Make it probably approximately like a 13.5 if it totally goes to 1. If not, it all depends on where the yeast wants to end up at the end. All right, back to more vigorous shaking. Yeehaw. All right, another reading. Oh yeah. Beautiful. So, I didn't add too much, but it did tick it up, like virtually 0. So, we're going to go with that. So that is 1.09. Let's go with 3. It's kind of subjective when it gets to this level, how precise you want to be. You can be a little bit lean with the alcohol tolerance. The only one who's regulating that is the Food and Alcohol Administration. Apparently you can be off by up to like 2%. So anyways, it's sweetened to where we like. And now our yeast looks like it's ready. You can see here we kind of got a bit of a bubbly dome here of stuff with all the yeast in there. Looks a bit better than the yeast, the other yeast that's through in the Chardonnay, but it's really good. We're just going to go ahead, dump it in, give it a bit of a shake. So when I test the pH, I'm not testing the pH of the yeast. I just really need to give it just to become a bit of a swig. Once again, doing a lot of oxygenating here to get a lot of oxygen into the wine, because the yeast will enjoy that later. pH strip. All right. That did not rip off the way I wanted it to. All right. So I'm going to dip this in there and okay. So we are 3.5, I'd say 3.5 pH. That is probably a little bit higher, but I mean probably a little bit, probably normal for a red or a white, but for a red it's a little bit high. So I'm going to write down pH. Right. All right. We have our pH, we have our sugar, we have our yeast in here. We are just mixing pectic enzyme to extract more nutrients out of the yeast and color and probably a little bit of flavor too. And then our nutrients, in which we use probably a tablespoon for each. Since this is a 3-gallon batch, it's, what is this? Half a teaspoon per gallon. So I'm going to do a teaspoon. Probably pop that funnel back on. And then hit it up with that half one. One half teaspoons of pectic enzyme. It's not sinking very fast. I'm going to do a tablespoon of the Fermaid. This is the nutrient. I'm not sure if this was in the last video or if it got misrecorded by me. Could be both actually. But I'm going to add this now, then I'm going to add about an equal amount, 48 to 72 hours. This will help nutrients for the yeast. And there's a lot of stuff stuck in this funnel. Oh well. We're going to wash it out. And how? I'm probably just going to suck some out of there and flush it back down. Yeah, that's pretty much all we gotta add to it right now. Everything here has been sanitized beforehand. And both of the yeast I add to the Chardonnay and this have a competitive kill factor. So if there are any other yeasts that somehow make it in there, it should fight it to the death. If not, well, it'll be the death of us, I guess. Alright, what I'm going to do now, throw that in there. In there too. I'm going to cap this. I'm going to oxygenate it quite a bit before I let it sit. And probably by 9 or 10 tonight, I should be able to see some bubbles. I'll be sure to probably send a Snapchat of that because I'm going to edit this video right after this and send it to y'all. So, yeah. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to keep going. So, adios.